Hello and welcome to the ChillTakes podcast. I'm your host, Darian Harris. And as you can see from this title, I am talking about my Jaguars, man. The Jags versus Texans today happened. The Jags fell to a very embarrassing, pathetic, disappointing loss, 37-17. It wasn't really close in my opinion at all. I mean, there was some times where the Jaguars could have had a chance to take back momentum, but they never could seize control of this game. The Texans went up 7-0, and they never looked back, man. It was a very embarrassing performance by both sides of the ball for the Jaguars. But I want to touch base on the Texans real quick because I got a lot to speak about on the Jaguars. The Texans had a magnificent performance. Excuse me. The Texans had a magnificent performance. Rookie head coach D'Amico Ryans got his first win as a head coach in the NFL, which is big time. Stroud has been having an amazing start to the season. He had another amazing performance today. He went 20 for 30, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, didn't get a sack, didn't turn the ball over. I mean, he was damn near perfect out there. Tank Dell, their third round pick, another rookie guy, right? The receiver, 5 receptions, 145 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, the defense did enough to stop the Jaguars offense. And also, man, you just give credit to this team in general, man. They were out. Majority of their starters, I think they have the most players on injured reserve right now, I think with 12. I mean, just credit to this Texas coaching staff for staying locked in, having their players dialed in this entire game. And they went out and performed damn near perfect, right? I mean, also they had some big time special teams plays. Also another first rounder they drafted, and Will Anderson Jr. He had a big time field goal block, and also their fullback Andrew Beck, or whatever his name is. No disrespect to him, but he had a kick return that went like 90 yards or something like that, bro. It was just an all out amazing performance by the Texans. But as for the Jaguars, man, utterly embarrassing. This Jaguars team had a lot of hype entering the season, and they had a big game against the Colts. They won. That Chiefs performance was bad, but they lost, and in close fashion, I would say, right? So you were expecting, well, as fans, was expecting to see this team bounce back in a better way in week 3 against an opponent they have lost like 20 straight times to at home, it seems like, right? I mean, they were favored by 8.5 points, and they completely got upset, man. It was embarrassing from start to finish. The offense was putrid once again. Press Taylor calling plays at the first half was awful to watch, right? It was not fluid at all. It wasn't consistent. They were like at times moving real snail-like, right? They had no sense of urgency. It was just overall a pathetic performance offensively. Trevor didn't have much time to throw at times. His receivers dropped the ball. Calvin Ridley had another lackluster performance. Jamal Agnew, I'm not sure why he's featured so much as a receiver on this team right now, but he had costly drops. He had a fumble as well. Christian Kirk still can't get going like we would like this for him to get going on these games, right? He had a touchdown, when in scrap minutes. But regardless of the fact, man, this Jaguars offense is not what we saw at the tail end of last year, man. There's too many moving pieces going on, and I think the addition of Calvin Ridley has really screwed things up a bit. Not saying it can't be fixed, but I think there's just too much guessing on the field right now, not enough continuity, not enough chemistry. And your main guys that you had on this team last year offensively, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, and also Zay Jones when he's healthy, are not getting the ball enough, in my opinion. ETN had a big day on the ground. He had 19 carries for 88 yards. And also Trevor's stats real quick, 27 for 40, 279 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had a bad interception. But the Jaguars, they're just flat offensively, man. I really can't wrap my head around this right now, given the fact that they had so much hype on this offense entering the season. Last week was a wake-up call, like I said, man. They had a bad practice. Doug Peterson spoke about it in his presser leading up to this week 3 matchup. They supposedly practiced better, but I think it's deeper than practice, man. I just think these guys don't have what it takes to have a top 10 offense in the NFL. And their defense, which is overall better than last year, I would say, entering this season. Now, they did get carved up by a rookie quarterback and a rookie receiver, you know what I'm saying? But they had stops, right? They made stops time and time in this game. They didn't get any sacks, which is unfortunate. We'll talk about that in a little bit. They didn't force any turnovers either. But they stopped the Texans from pushing the ball down the field. It just the offense, in my opinion, was the deciding factor in this game, man. I mean, you had 0 points through the first 7 quarters, through the last 7 quarters, I would say, these last 2 weeks, right? And they didn't get a touchdown until after halftime. They got the ball back, but they got lucky to even get that because Trevor tried to take a shot to Calvin Ridley in the back of the end zone, and Jimmy Ward got called for a PI that could have easily been, restrained from the refs even call, right? So, what's like this? They've only scored like like less than 27 points in the last 2 weeks of football after scoring 30 plus in week 1. I mean, it's just overall, dog. I don't really know what to say about this team right now, man. It's very head scratching. There's a lot of blame going around. Of course, a lot of fans are not out there, are not impressed or happy with the play calling of Press Taylor. I'm not sure why Doug Peterson even emphasized on that entering that week 1 matchup against the Colts, because now there's going to be a heavy focus on the plays offensively, right? Because if the offenses are running smoothly, they're going to blame it on Press Taylor, right? But if they even have some type of traction, it's going to be Doug Peterson's calling plays again, which we saw in the second half, right? The offense, even though they got blown out still, it still looked better in the second half in comparison to the first half, right? They scored 17 points in the second half. So going forward, man, my idea, I just say just start out calling plays with Doug Peterson and just do what you did last year, right? Don't fix what wasn't broken, right? I mean, we talked about this entering the season. Like, I was so mind boggled by that decision being had, because the offense was fine last year, especially in that second half of the season when they had those remarkable comebacks against the Baltimore Ravens, the Dallas Cowboys, right? The Los Angeles Chargers in the playoffs, right? Now, of course, Doug Peterson came out and said that, hey, in those big time comebacks, Press Taylor was a big focal point. Well, let him be a focal point. Don't let him be the actual deemed play caller, because when it's all said and done, man, there's no fluidity to this offense. It looks janky. It looks slow paced. It looks out of sorts. It looks confusing at times. Trevor is locking onto one receiver. Like, it's kind of like, I'm not saying he's regressed, but like last year we saw Trevor, go with those progressions, right? I'm expecting to see the same Trevor that ended the season last year to begin this year, right? But also on an uptick to be an MVP caliber quarterback. And right now he's not playing like that. And it's still very early, but it's not a comfortable feeling whatsoever, man. This team should not be 1-2 right now. They should be 2-1, in my opinion, entering their week 4 matchup against the Falcons. We'll talk about that at the end of this video. But most importantly, let's flip back to this defense. This defense is still they still have their feet in quicksand, man. They just can't get out their own way at times, man. When last week we saw them come out there and put up a world-class performance against this Mahomes and Chiefs offense, right? They made stops and stops over and over again. They forced turnovers, they got sacks, but today they did none of that, right? They like I said, they started out pretty good, but in that third quarter, most importantly, it fell completely on their face, right? They tried to blitz CJ Stroud. They were going against backup offensive linemen. Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker could not get any sacks, which is crazy to me. Like, that's why I wasn't too hyped about that duo coming into the season, and why I expressed that they need more pass rushers. This is why they should have got after someone like Yannick Ngakoue or Melvin Ingram, who's still out there, or someone like Zadarius Smith, Danielle Hunter. They should have went out there and grabbed another pass rusher, because they don't have enough bodies at the edge rusher position to get after the quarterback, and that's become, pretty serious these first 3 weeks, and it's going to get even worse as the season goes on unless they add a defensive piece to get after the quarterback via trade. You know what I'm saying? So it's just very frustrating to watch, right? You have Trayvon Walker, who is very solid in the run game. I would say he's probably one of the best young run stoppers in the NFL right now, but he wasn't drafted first overall to be a run stopper. He was drafted to get after the quarterback, create pressures, get sacks. And yeah, he is, creating pressures to a solid percentage. But the quarterback sacking is not a thing, man. He has no pass rushing moves, bro. He gets walled up every single time he goes against opposing tackles, and it's pretty embarrassing to watch at times. Josh Allen, I mean, it's always like he's like a step slower or something like that, man. He's getting back there. He's hitting the quarterback, but he is still not, creating the sacks we desperately need. No strip sacks, no nothing, right? The interior D-line, like Roy Robertson Jr., Roy Robertson Harris, whoever else they got out there, because they have Devon Hamilton's not healthy right now. They play solid today, right? They've been playing solid these last few weeks because the rushing attack has been fine this year. It's just in third down situations when they got to get after the quarterback, they can't get it done, man. So, it's very frustrating. Like I said, hats off to the Texans. They played magnificent today. They got their big win, their first win of the season, of course. But I don't know, man. I'm just very frustrated with the Jaguar team right now. I mean, I'm not really showing it because it's week 3. It's not like it's week 8. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this team got off to to start last year. I'm pretty sure, right? They lost to the Commanders. They beat the Colts, and then they lost week 3 against the Texans. I'm pretty sure. So, however that went last year, we're experiencing the same thing. And those things that were correctable last year about starting off slow is seeming to transition into this year right now, man. They talk so much about the offseason, how they're going to start out faster this year, right? They don't want to play come from behind football, right? But that is starting to happen again, transpired this year so far. And also the injury bug is starting to stack up a little bit, right? ETN left the game due to cramps. I'm hoping, Anton Harrison, their first round pick, the tackle out of Oklahoma, he had an ankle injury, right? I mean, Zay Jones is a little banged up. I know Josh Allen is banged up. They're fighting the injury bug, but hopefully they can find some health here soon because they have some tough games coming up. Their next 3 opponents, they can easily go 1-4. They have the Falcons in London. They had the Bills the following week in London. They also have the Colts, who have been playing good football since they faced them in week 1. So, this is correctable. It's definitely fixable. I say, hey, the play calling needs to be designated to Doug Peterson. From now until he has the flexibility to kind of give Press Taylor that leash. But as of right now, it's not it, because this is the reason why Doug Peterson got fired in Philadelphia, right? Howie Roseman was not going for Press Taylor being the offensive play caller because he's not good. He's not good at his job. And Doug Peterson essentially pretty much just quit on the Eagles during his last season, given the fact that he wasn't given the flexibility to make his own calls and have other guys around him, most importantly, Press Taylor, be the designated play caller. But, Shad Khan and, Shad Khan and, my goodness, I'm forgetting his name. Trent Baalke. Wow. Sorry. Trent Baalke have given that leash to Doug Peterson, which is, rightfully earned, right? Because he's a Super Bowl head coach. You kind of got to trust his instincts and, what he wants in his team. But as of right now, man, it's just not looking good, right? Like I said, we're going to week 4. Got a big game against the Falcons in London next week. But if you start out 1-3 and it's still the play calling that's lackluster, you got to make some changes, man. And I think the biggest thing is, demoting Press Taylor from being your offensive play caller officially, right? Let him just do what he did last year, right? Let him just, regulate the game at times, but not call the official game. Real quick before I end this podcast, though, I want to speak on Calvin Ridley. He had another rusty performance today, and I don't know if he's still shaking off that rust, given the fact that he did miss almost 2 years of football, but it wasn't good today, right? He dropped the big-time touchdown that essentially changed momentum, which you don't think would happen in a game against the Texans. Not like we're facing the Miami Dolphins or nothing like that, but against the Texans, they dropped a touchdown pass, and that completely just, took the whole air out of this Jaguars team, which is pretty embarrassing still because that shouldn't happen. But overall, man, you have to catch balls like that, man. The self-inflicted penalties offensively, right? The false starts he had today, the holding calls the offensive line had at times today, right? I mean, overall, I just think they need to start getting Christian Kirk involved more from the get-go, right? And you start issuing Calvin Ridley as the wide receiver 2 until he shows you that he can be the wide receiver 1, right? But don't force it on him. And I think it's pretty unfair to force it on Calvin right now, given the fact that he did almost miss 2 years of football. As for the rest of the receiving core, Zay Jones, hopefully he's back healthy. Hopefully he's back healthy against the Atlanta Falcons. I think he's like nursing like a shoulder or ankle injury or something like that. We need him back in the fold. Hopefully we can see more Tim Jones or Parker Washington next week. Evan Ingram needs more touches. He didn't get any touches till late into the game. It was pretty much, a 2-score game, right? They need to get their guys involved more instead of just trying to designate the play calling to one guy and working off him. No, it's a free-flowing offense that we were supposed to see this year. Everybody gets to eat. And also for Jamal Agnew. I got a lot of respect for Jamal Agnew. I think he's still one of the best return men in football right now. But he needs to see less touches offensively as a receiver, man, because he drops the ball way too much. In the last 4 games, I'm pretty sure he's had a drop against the Chiefs or a fumble. Or in the last 3 of the last 4 games, he's had a fumble in these matchups, right? Against the Chiefs, he had that big-time fumble in the 4th quarter. Against the Chiefs, last week he had a fumble, of course, and then today he had another big-time fumble that resulted in, the Texans getting 3 points before halftime. So, overall, man, they got to make some wholesale changes offensively, right? Start taking back some minutes from certain players, and start giving other guys touches they deserve. So, you know, that's all my piece on the offense right now. I'm not going to go on the whole deep spill because, like I said, I think these things are fixable, they're correctable, but you got to get it going now because the season can definitely get away from you in a hurry. You're 1-2 right now. I think you're tied for what, third or second in the division right now. I think everybody in the division right now is 1-2. So bounce back game against the Falcons and going forward. Like I said, the next big test is going to be, in my opinion, the Buffalo Bills. But as for the Jaguars right now, man, maybe every week is a test because honestly, coming into the season, I have these guys finishing around 12-5 or 11-6, and that's still very much in the possibilities. But they gotta start out faster, man. This is like what, the 9th consecutive game that they haven't been able to score a touchdown. Or my bad, scratch that. The 9th consecutive game they haven't been able to put up a point in their first opening drive, man. So they gotta start fast. They gotta play better. Full 4 quarters of football offensively and defensively, and they just gotta find some consistency, man. Because if not, this is going to be one of the most embarrassing letdown seasons that I've ever experienced as a Jaguars fan. So still very early, very embarrassing loss. I hope a lot of egos get checked. I hope a lot of good comes out of this going forward. But we got the Falcons coming up next week in London. It's going to be an early morning game on the American side, of course. So I'm excited to watch that game. I'm definitely gonna be locked in because I think they will win. But check back in, with this, in my opinion, on the Jaguars as we get closer to week 4 because, man, my opinion might change. But as of right now, man, I thank y'all for tapping in with me. I will be dropping, a full recap of all teams Tuesday. I will have that up. I'll be recording on Monday night, and I'll have it up Tuesday morning. So I thank y'all for listening to this show, man. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, man. I greatly appreciate it. We're still around 300 subscribers. Let's try to get that up a bit. And also follow me on all my major platforms. TikTok is ChillTakes. Twitter is ChillTakes. But until next time, man, that is a wrap. And thank you for tapping in with me.